PowerPoint presentation of the webinar. We'll send some things out like some applications and specimen quotes for us, some sales material and things like that to get us going. And so just the screen that you see right now is a list of the Stuckey & Company programs. In 2016, Stuckey & Company will celebrate 25 years as an MGA, offering our agents access to some solid carriers like Safeco, Hartford, Travelers, Met, AIG, ACE, Chubb, to name a few. I think all of those actually we have personal lines agreements with. We have 9 specialty programs. Our first program is Safety Tech. It's professional liability for the technology industry. We insure over 10,000 software companies across the country, and that's one of our larger programs. Harbor Guard is a marine program for marinas, boat dealers, and boat repairers. We have the Aspire A&E program, which is for architects and engineers. MPL for miscellaneous professional liability. We have a surplus lines property and general liability program for things that fall outside of the standard commercial lines. We have the standard commercial lines, obviously, the BOP, comp, auto, bonds, EPLI, D&O, fiduciary, all those types of things for small, mid-market, and national accounts. We have, obviously, our personal lines program that we're going to talk about today. We do home, auto, boat, and also high-value home. And we have a program called Element for the green energy industry and Servicer Pro for the appliance repair industry. So I guess without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sonny Maddox, account executive of Safeco Specialty.
Well, thanks, Dwight. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to take the time to talk to the producers about Safeco Specialty products. I think most agents are aware of the fact that Safeco is very large as far as auto is concerned, property is concerned, but we also have access to all the Safeco Specialty products as well, which I mean by umbrella, motorcycle, watercraft, RVs, trailers, antique classic cars, dwelling fire policies. In fact, we are in the independent agency system. Safeco is the largest multi-line carrier as of early in 2015. So from a multi-line standpoint, we're the largest in the independent agency system. Most agents do quote us for auto, do quote us for home, but many of the agents don't realize that our specialty products are just excellent products. Our main competition is Progressive, of course, and they're the only one that's larger than Safeco in the independent agency system. So we're the second largest specialty writer with some tremendous advantages that I would like to go into. So if you can move her to the next slide, we will get started and give you a little bit of information as to what I think might help before we get into this. Now, many of you are probably wondering where I'm from because this accent is a little bit unique. So I am a Southeastern Conference boy, but spent a lot of time, about 25 years with Safeco in Atlanta. So a combination of Alabama and Atlanta presents this accent. I hope it's not too much of a problem for you, but at least you don't have to sit there and wonder where the heck is this guy from. So anyway, something to keep in mind when we talk about specialty products from my perspective, it is a huge retention builder for the agents. So I wanted to share this graph with you as emphasis. If we took all of Safeco's standalone auto policies throughout the country for all of our agencies, our retention on that business is like 79%, which is not a great retention, of course, and certainly you would want a higher retention. So if you add one additional policy to that auto policy, the retention goes to 88%. And now we're getting into an area that you probably would like to have, but probably and preferably even a little higher. So Auto policy, one additional policy with Safeco, and it could be any kind of a policy. It could be a motorcycle, could be a watercraft, could be an umbrella, could be a home. Add a third policy, and you get into the mid-90s, 92%, and 4 and up, it just keeps adding to your retention. I know Safeco's interested in retention. Agents certainly are. Everybody wants to write new business, but retention is where the revenue's generated from. This isn't new. You've heard it for years that PIA will tell everybody the more policies you have for an individual with one carrier, the higher the retention is for you. So the reason I point that out is because adding any other policy to an auto policy does improve the retention. Adding a third policy gets it into the 90s, where most of you would like to probably be. So next slide, please. We elected to talk today about the umbrella policy, Safeco's umbrella policy. We hope to be able to use this as a kickoff to do the other products as well down the road, because we don't want to take all of your time to go through each of the individual products in a particular phone call. It takes a while to go through them, so we elected to do the umbrella because it really doesn't have a seasonality to it like you would find with motorcycle or watercraft or motorhomes and trailers and things like that. So the umbrella policy, we elected to do this first presentation on the umbrella, and for several reasons, the one I just mentioned, but the umbrella probably is the most important policy that anyone could have out there. And I'll kind of start this way by telling you that you're not going to meet anybody today, this week. You didn't meet anybody yesterday, I suspect. You don't go to church with anybody or have relatives or friends that do not and should not have an umbrella policy today. It's the best buy in the industry. It's a protection for them. The problems come about a lot of times is that the vast majority of the population out there doesn't know what an umbrella policy is and how it can protect them. And that's where the independent agents comes in. We've mentioned that it improves retention. It's a huge client block of pool out there for you to go after with one of the highest close ratios around. So once you're able to explain to a particular client the fact that they should have an umbrella and then quote it, you will find out in most instances that the yearly premium is probably the lowest for most products that you would be trying to convince someone that they need. And I think from a perspective of an agent, it's very important that you have your own personal umbrella policy, because you can do about the best sales job you could think of with a particular client about their need for an umbrella. But if at the end they look at you and say, well, do you have one? If you have to honestly admit that maybe you don't, then probability of the sale goes down a lot. But if you're able to tell them absolutely and I would not be without it, then the probability goes up. And that's really a true statement, is that even if you recognize that you might not have your own, I'm hoping you'll fix it where you can say that you absolutely wouldn't be without it. Adds a real emphasis, and I think it is so important with what's going on today. So talking a little bit specific about Safeco's umbrella policy, if you don't mind, Dwight, go to the next slide there. Our Safeco umbrella policy is so easy to quote in the Safeco system. It is a true umbrella policy. It's not an excess or a form follow, and I will explain the difference in just a little bit to make sure we're all on the same page about that. Ours is also worldwide coverage, and I will explain that a little bit more in a minute. But auto is the only policy that we require to write an umbrella. We sit over the home that they reside in, but we don't require that we insure that home. We only want to have, or do require, that we insure their personal autos in order to write an umbrella policy. There are no restrictions on the credit rating of underlying carriers. So if the home is with a carrier that maybe not has a very high credit rating to it, then we can still write the umbrella as long as we have the auto. We don't have UIM available in every state yet. There are 16 states where we do have it right now. On this list that you see here, We actually left out one, which is Louisiana. So Louisiana is another one of the states along with these. We're introducing 10 other states in probably around the middle of December, which are Idaho and Kansas, Maryland, Minnesota, Missouri, New York, North Carolina, South Carolina, Utah, and Virginia, which would then give us 26 of the states so far. We do want to put UIM availability in every state that we can, but right now we only have the 16 states listed here, and hopefully in the middle of next month, 10 more. It is subject a little bit to DOI approval and things like that, but we're not expecting any major issues at this point. So when we talk about Safeco being a true umbrella and not an excess or form follow, let me give you an example that will emphasize this a little bit. Now, we have a southeastern region state where we insured a Safeco auto customer with an umbrella policy. We didn't have their homeowner policy. It was with another carrier, but we don't require that we have the home. And things are happening today that I would not even have expected to be an issue for clients and needing coverage for today that I probably wouldn't have thought of 3 or 4 years ago. And it involved, in this particular case, a 14-year-old daughter who didn't like math and really didn't like her math teacher in school. So she goes out on Facebook, and what she posts about the teacher isn't pretty. And it basically led to a defamation of character lawsuit against our Safeco insured because they're the parents of the 14-year-old. Now, if this same customer had written an auto and a home policy with a carrier other than Safeco, but they did require both auto and home, but their policy was an excess or form follow policy, which could be when they issued the umbrella, then we could have a different situation here. And this is the emphasis I wanted to put on the difference between a true umbrella like Safeco's and an excess or form follow. Important that the agent producers know what they're actually selling. So in this case, the 14-year-old daughter doing what she did, the lawsuit led the parents to go check their homeowner CPL to see if they have any coverage at all. Their homeowner with another carrier excludes personal injury. Yeah. So if they do have an umbrella that's an excess or form follow, if there's no coverage in the underlying, then it'll never get to the umbrella. But in our case, because we're a true umbrella, we basically are an all-peril policy, Safeco's umbrella. It's covered unless specifically excluded. Well, we have a very broad definition of personal injury. So for them, we drop down to a $250 deductible or a retained limit, and they have coverage up to their liability limit of their umbrella policy, depending on whether they chose $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, or $5 million that Safeco offers. In this case, let's suppose that the judgment on a multi-million-dollar lawsuit is $1,400,000. If they've chosen $1 million, then they're going to have coverage up to that amount with Safeco, but then they're going to be responsible for the amount over the $1 million liability limit they have. If they chose $2 million liability limit, then they're going to be covered completely. When I talk about worldwide coverage, that means that if someone goes on vacation, rents a car overseas, they don't have to purchase the liability over in Italy to operate a rental car, or Germany or Japan. They have coverage under our umbrella policy. So that's what the worldwide coverage means. So Dwight, if you don't mind, would you go to the next screen, please? I mentioned the broad definition of personal injury in the Safeco umbrella policy. Please don't forget that you can find all kinds of examples today, especially with social media. They're creating cases and liability situations not expected by clients in the not too far distant future. Many of you might recognize situations where teenagers in high school get talked into sending inappropriate pictures to each other. Then they break up and pictures get out. Parents are finding out about their daughter or son's pictures that are not copacetic being sent to other people, and if they can get that information, the parents of those people are being pulled into lawsuits. So the social media is creating a whole different area. Now, the largest area where Safeco's umbrella comes into play turns out to be left turns and at intersections in front of motorcycles or other vehicles. That's probably the one that gets to an umbrella most often. And today, with the hospital costs and things that they are, probably the minimum liability limit on auto that anybody should carry is probably $250,000, $500,000, which is a lot of BI coverage, more than what some of you may even have in your preference settings. But 5,100, 100, 300 are not really adequate any longer. It doesn't take but 2 or 3 days in the hospital that somebody exceeds their $100,000. You can even go to an emergency room and maybe get in the hospital just overnight, and you're looking at a quarter of that $100,000 easily in hospital cost. People are living today with serious spinal injuries and brain injuries that maybe not even lived a long while back. So medical improvements have increased, but they're going to need a lot of care for a long period of time. So $250,000, $500,000 is probably the minimum liability limit on the auto. Of course, $300,000 probably the minimum liability limit on CPL. We do have required underlying coverages to write an umbrella with us, and the minimum that we accept is $250,000, $500,000. I always recommend that even at $250,000, $500,000, always quote $500,000 CSL on the auto. It will increase the premium there, but the buy-in on the Safeco umbrella policy usually offsets that increase, and they most of the time end up with more coverage for less premium with 500 CSL BI limit and the umbrella buy-in at that cost. Another thing to keep in mind, our policy is designed to cover all family members in the household. If we do write the home, it provides a 2% discount in most states on that home policy for having the umbrella with Safeco. Another advantage that Safeco offers as far as an umbrella is concerned is that we pay attorney fees, even foreign attorney fees, above the liability limit of the umbrella policy. So they can have some pretty high attorney fees. They can have a judgment of their umbrella liability limit, and we pay the attorney fees over and above those not within. That's an advantage. Now, everyone knows that catastrophic losses are what an umbrella has always been intended to cover. People's assets. Rich people, we used to think, not anymore. What's happening today that some of you may not know, and why I think that everybody should have an umbrella policy today, and that you're not going to meet anybody that doesn't, is because if things happen, then the attorneys are going after their equity in people's homes. And a lot of people don't realize that some states won't allow them to take the home, but they can take the equity out of the home. So it's a thing that didn't used to be in play, but it's in play now. So what I try to tell everybody is an umbrella policy is a policy everybody should have, but then tell them right up front they may never need it. The difference comes about if it's a policy that they ever need and they don't have it. Then their world can change. I don't mind people thinking that way and knowing that. I think it's a good way to approach people to let them know it's a policy that everyone should have, may never need, but hopefully if you ever need it, that you're going to have it. Because they're going after equity in homes. They're going after people's assets. They're going after their 401ks and retirement accounts. They did not necessarily used to do that. But if you go out on the internet and look up whether 401ks and retirement accounts are protected from liability suits, you'll find out that they are not. And a big one is most of you get a paycheck. You have a salary. And the states, and it's important to know what your state, where you live, can actually garnish from people's paychecks through the court system. But let me give you an example that will emphasize a policy that everybody should have and may never need versus need and not have, and how this all relates together. And this is a case that we had in a Northwest region state, and one of our Safeco insureds, 250, 500 BI limits, rear-ended a car. Not a lot of damage. Until the motorcycle behind our insured rear-ended our insured's car. two people on the motorcycle. They go off the motorcycle over the car, hit the hood, land in the street. 21-year-old college student is paralyzed. Now, the thing that people have to recognize is that while this rear-ending accident wasn't a whole lot of damage initially, what nobody can ever measure is what the severity of a particular loss could be. In this case, the severity is huge. Our Safeco insured got a ticket for following too close. The driver of the motorcycle got a ticket for following too close. But this ends up in court, and a jury found our insureds 70% at fault because they want to get to whatever liability limits are available. In this case, he had $250,000, $500,000 auto BI. So Safeco writes our check, and we're pretty much gone. But the court system's not through with this insured. They did have a farm that had been in their family for 130 years, and the court sold the farm, and the proceeds of that sale go to the paralyzed young man, which is what the courts do, because our insured was held legally responsible for the damages and injuries to the young college student. But they weren't through with them yet. Our insured at the time was 45 years old. His wife was 42. She was not even in the car. And the state has taken 35% of both of them's salary for as long as they work or until the judgment's paid off. Probably most of you, many of you anyway, and a lot of the general public out there do not know that their salaries, their potential income, is subject to judgments and lawsuits down the road. And they can lose up to whatever the state of where you live says that they can garnish out of people's paychecks. I have seen it from 20%, 25%, 30, 35, 40, up to 50% in some states. I don't know who can take that kind of a hit. And about the only way to protect it, because nobody can measure severity, is to make sure they folks have an umbrella policy. I've gotten to a point after all the things that I've seen here, and give you another example in a moment or two to maybe emphasize it a little bit more. I just don't think that there's anybody that should not have an umbrella policy today. It's the best buy in the industry. Everyone that you write as a producer, agent, reduces E&O exposure for you. Everyone that you don't write is a potential E&O exposure. I remember many years back, PIA Association, Professional Insurance Association, used to recommend that you get the name on a form signed by the insured or the client if you talk to them about an umbrella and they don't want it. And that's a good approach, but it's gotten to be that you have to have both of the named insured's signatures, because if they end up divorced or one of them dies and you don't have the other one's signature, then they have a case against you. And I don't want anybody to be in that situation. I saw a case probably 5 months ago, and I see cases frequently that just are stunning. But this was an agent, happened not to be a Safeco agent, but Safeco wrote their personal insurances. And so we wrote their auto, wrote their homeowner insurance. We wrote their Harley-Davidson motorcycle and a Sea Ray boat. Did not elect an umbrella policy. He and his wife's sister, and the mother of the wife and sister went to a restaurant and had dinner. And when they get back to the house, he happens to have 4 dogs. Now, he didn't have these dogs when we wrote his homeowner policy, but he had obtained them since then, because we wouldn't have written it had we known in the beginning. But one of the dogs was a red heeler, another one was a pit bull, and then there were 2 puppies from those 2 dogs. So there were 4 dogs in the household. And for whatever reason, had never happened before, the pit bull attacked the sister when they came into the house. In the first week in the hospital, 2 plastic surgeries to her face, and they're nowhere near finished. They haven't even gotten to her right arm yet, which she was trying to protect herself, or her left hand. Now, from a severity standpoint, what is this going to cost? Nobody knows. It's going to be a lot. He only had $100,000 on his homeowner CPL. No umbrella policy. And this is an insurance agent. I want none of you in that kind of a situation. So if you don't have your own umbrella please fix it, because you never know where losses can come from, and you have to protect yourself. He's been an agent for over 25, 30 years. He could lose everything he's worked for because he didn't spend a few dollars to have an umbrella policy. And I don't want that to happen to any of you. Certainly don't want it to happen to anybody that I work here with at Safeco. So an umbrella policy, as I mentioned, reduces E&O exposure for you, improves retention for you, a policy everybody should have and hope they never need, but if they ever need it and don't have it, as this agent is facing, as that one that was rear-ended by a motorcycle, the family over in the southeast where the 14-year-old daughter did something, you never know where these are going to come from. So I can't encourage you to enough how easy the close ratio is. We're talking about 40 to 50% close ratio when you really tell somebody the need for an umbrella. We've reached a point in today's climate that an umbrella isn't an option anymore. It's a necessity. So if you can take that approach of knowing that the people almost have to have it and convince them that they do, then the whole conversation shifts to what liability limit do they need? 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, or more. We write them right now up to 5. Hopefully before too long we may even have a 10 million umbrella, but we don't have it yet. But this is the first product that I wanted to talk to you guys about today, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about the more seasoned products like motorcycle and watercraft down the road. But right now, I would like to open it up to see if you guys have any questions. And Dwight and Stacy are ready to receive the questions, and we'll cover them.
Yeah, thanks, Sonny. Great stuff. I totally agree. It is not an option. It is a necessity. And you know, if it was only for reducing our E&O exposure, you know, it's a reason to offer it. But and or you know, increasing retention with a 40 to 50% close rate, it's crazy. But you know, also I think you mentioned it, then just kind of touched on it. We have a few examples printed out where it literally reduced the premium from one of the accounts was $4,300 to $4,393 to $3,664. But you know, even more than that, it's honestly it's at the insured's.
It provides more coverage and for their best interest.
Yeah, best interest, exactly. Thank you. So a couple of questions. How to cover, how do you overcome the, I have a trust, so my assets are protected, you know, the question, or you know, how do you combat that as a sales tool?
You mean if the insured vehicles are covered through a trust instead of an individual name? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah,
so if a individual has a trust and all of his assets are in that trust, or at least as many as you know you could possibly get in there, his home, business, you know, cars, everything that he owns is in the trust.
My suggestion would be in anything that is kind of a little bit unusual. There's some people like that, but the vast majority of the people that aren't set up under trust, I would always go to the Safeco underwriter and present the individual situation you've got and let them make some decisions. I know we don't write vehicles that are titled in a business name unless it happens, you know, to be some smaller type of a business. But they usually want to know that, and it's just like they would if it was a professional athlete or an entertainer, judge, any politician, things like that. They're always good to talk to the underwriter first. You have, all of you have a dedicated specialty underwriter, depending on what state you're in, that you can go to when it comes to these specialty products to, you know, let them know. Tell them what the trust is, what it involves, and sometimes they're willing to do it, and then there may be instances that they don't. I just can't give you a blank answer other than if it's out of the ordinary, get in touch with your specialty underwriter to see if there was something they might need to know about it.
Right. And I guess the salary, which is subject to judgment and lawsuits, would not be included in the trust. So that's one thing that you can protect.
Right, right. And the
Yeah,
equity.
outside of it for sure.
So another question is, does worldwide coverage include Mexico?
Yes, if you're operating a vehicle in Mexico. Now, our worldwide coverage doesn't include property they own overseas. So if they own a home in Spain, it's not going to sit over that home.
Of course.
But if they're operating a vehicle legally in Mexico, now in order to operate a vehicle in Mexico, their people are required to have a Mexico liability policy. They would have to have that up to the required underlying limit that we have before our umbrella would come into play. But if they had done that legally, then our umbrella would sit over their liability limits of that Mexico liability policy. It's anywhere in the world that they may be operating a vehicle.
And here's another one. Will the Safeco Umbrella go over a Hartford home liability?
Yes.
And
yes.
I guess the same holds true for a motorcycle?
It would. Now, here's the only thing that we require that we have to have in order to write an umbrella policy, and that's their personal automobiles that they have. We have to have those. But that doesn't include motorhomes. It doesn't include antique classic cars. They can be insured elsewhere. They could have a watercraft insured elsewhere. They could have a motorcycle insured with another carrier. While we would love to write it all, we may not have those. For our umbrella to sit over those, what they have to do is disclose that they have them and they have the required underlying limits on them. Then they will pay a small premium under our umbrella policy to sit over those other vehicles. And the underwriters might look at some of them. For example, if they want to have an umbrella sit over a motorcycle, then they would pay a small premium to do that. But underwriting is going to reach out to find out, well, what motorcycle are we talking about? What kind is it? Who the operator is? If they found out it was a Ninja motorcycle, let's say, high performance for a 17-year-old youthful operator with 2 speeding tickets and an at-fault accident on his record, they may elect not to put the umbrella over that. But if it's Dad with his Harley Davidson, he's had it for 5 years, they would probably say absolutely and then take the charge and go ahead and insure it. But underwriting will look to see what the exposure is. If it's a watercraft, they probably are not going to accept the exposure. If it's a cigarette-type boat, performance much higher than what Safeco's comfortable with, because I think our max speed limit for most boats is 65 miles per hour, and these cigarette boats go close to 100 or plus. And while we will write bass boats at a higher speed, up to 85, we don't do that for most. So they will ask things, and they will look, but we can set over the other products as long as they're disclosed, premiums paid for them, and underwriting's comfortable with them.
Right. Okay.
Long answer to tell you yes.
No, those are great answers.
Yeah.
So here's another question. If I travel outside the U.S., can I decline the rental coverage?
2 answers to that. If the rental coverage is, you're talking about physical damage, then because we have the Safeco Auto, if you add Safeco's optimum endorsement to the Safeco Auto policy, then it gives them worldwide coverage for the physical damage of a rental car overseas. The liability, though, because it's not excluded from coverage under our umbrella, it's automatically there. They can exclude or tell the foreign company, country, they have liability coverage. You might have to take a copy of your umbrella policy with you to show them what your liability limits are. Then you could probably waive it. If you want to also waive the physical damage coverage, then you need to make sure you have Safeco's optimum endorsement on your Safeco Auto policy, because that provides worldwide coverage for physical damage. With me?
Right. Yep, I am. Here's another one. If he has a home in Florida with autos in Florida and a home in Alaska and an auto in Alaska, do both autos need to be with Safeco or just one auto?
Both. We have to have all the personal vehicles. And we do write autos in both of those states as well. Now, if the agent is licensed to write in those states, then he could write them both. He could write the one in Alaska, he could write the one in Florida. But if he is not licensed, say he's licensed to write in Florida but not Alaska, he could write the Florida one, but he might need to get an Alaskan agent to write a Safeco policy for them in Alaska. But we would have to have them both. If it was Canada, we don't write in Canada, so we would not be able to write his personally owned vehicle in Canada, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
That's the way it is.
Okay, so Sonny, I want to be respectful of the time. We've gone 7 minutes over. I appreciate your time. I think we had some great questions and awesome answers. Thanks for your time. Thanks for coming to the Safeco webinar, hosted by Stuckey & Company. We have a ton of more questions to go over. Sonny, I might need your help on answering some of those.
Okay, you can reach out to me or just send me an email, and we'll get answers to them and get them back to you, and you can filter them out.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do.
Sounds great. Well, again, thanks everybody for attending the Safeco webinar hosted by Stuckey & Company. I look forward to some great other specialty webinars from Safeco on RV, watercraft, antique cars, motorhomes, dwelling fire, trailers, all of that stuff. So look forward to some great webinars in 2016. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dwight. Thanks, Stacy. Appreciate it very much. Thanks for everybody that came. Bye-bye.